Okay, let's go. I played a game a couple of days ago and I wanted to actually uh it was yesterday I played a game. I wanted to analyze it and I wanted to quickly talk about some things that I noticed in the game and I want to see how accurate I was. I played as white and we went into a mainline Caro Kann, or actually technically it's no longer it's the old main line, I think. The one with bishop f5. Nowadays the modern main line is knight f6 and you just take e takes and white is slightly better permanently, and yeah, you just play on. White plays more often than not kind of on the queen side, sort of. Yeah, it's not really clear to me honestly, but it's probably just anything you do will always maintain your slight edge as white, unless you blunder really hard. But this line I know quite well. I do want to know why. I once learned that like your plan is doing this basically and then playing bishop d3 to eventually first you kick around the bishop a bit and then you play bishop d3 to eventually just trade it off. And I once learned that technically the optimal way to do this is to play the pawn, then the knight, then the pawn, and I don't know why. But I do know that this is the line. This threatens knight e5, so you play knight d7. Threatens is a big word, but I mean after knight e5, bishop h7, you can occasionally take here. Yeah, take. And here, this is the first time that there's kind of a choice of, well, after bishop f5, this is the first time there's kind of a choice. I didn't even look at my annotations yet. Yeah, and it was e6 in this case. You can also play knight f6, same difference. And back when I learned this as black actually, and I learned that the move was it was back in the day bishop f4. I didn't play that, but the line that I remember was bishop f4, queen a5 check. You just go back with the bishop and the queen has to go back to c7. Nowadays people just play bishop d2. Not sure what the difference is exactly. I'll look that up maybe. Knight gf6, just developing. And I castled long. Usually you castle long, play king b1, play c4 in some order. This time it was slightly different though. My opponent played bishop e7, which I think the bishop is supposed to go here, but it's fine. I played king b1. And my plan was to play c4 probably only after knight b6. Or after knight d5, then play c4. Because I currently neither of these are options, and especially this one isn't an option. Therefore I can just move. Actually, the pawns aren't the issue. But this pins my queen, and I want to basically get the tempo here and then this c4 pins this pawn to my queen along this file. So I want to get the tempo with c4 and then immediately unpin the pawn with bishop c3. That was the plan if I play c4. But if that doesn't happen, then I'll just delay it forever. That's fine. King b1, and my opponent castles short, which is that's always you either castle short or long, and we talked about it, and apparently maybe I'm just misremembering. I always thought that if you castled long, then you're inviting yourself to get checkmated and castle short is safe. Maybe it's the other way around though. Um, Yesterday we also talked about this, and apparently there's a quote by some grandmaster probably. And, it was the I believe it was Mikhail Tal. That maybe it's the wrong person. Castling short means you want to lose quickly, and castling long means you want to lose slowly. That was what he thought about this, but yeah. Okay, so from here I'm not. I've seen a couple of things. I thought that you wanted to trade off both knights and then just push here was kind of the plan. I thought. So I played knight e4. And if not, then I'll just keep the knight here if they don't take. But I think you should take. Or actually, I can also just take here. That's fine. That was oh yeah, that was the point. That happened as well. My opponent played b5, which is probably inaccurate. The point is that if my opponent doesn't take on e4, I take here, check, and on knight takes I get knight e5, which in this case also attacks this pawn. And on bishop takes, then I don't get knight e5. Well, I still kind of do, but there's no knight here anymore, so I can play g4. I think this is the accurate version. Even if there's a knight, I don't think g4 is good enough. And I'm just going to start my my kingside attack against my opponent's queenside attack. Here my opponent thought that they made an inaccuracy. I'm not sure. I think this makes sense as a move. c5. Trying to put pressure here, maybe push and push with tempo and push again or something. I thought that c5 made a lot of sense. I can't ever take because that opens up all of the things. Yeah. But I had a counter shot planned. This position reminded me of a game I had a while ago. I don't know when. I might make put a note in the comment or in the description or something about the game. I think I also analyzed that game. Maybe not, because I played it very well and then got into a completely winning position, and the moment that I could the only moment that I could properly get a permanent advantage, I blundered immediately and lost the game on the spot. So maybe I didn't analyze it. But yeah, it reminded me because I wanted to play g5 here. And just crash through on the king side. g5 you can take with the bishop, but I'll take with my bishop. And eventually you'll probably have to take with the pawn. You can move the bishop. The only way to not be forced to take with the pawn is to move the bishop, but then I take and then it's over, I think. Because the G file opens up and I've got everything. Maybe that's technically holdable, but I think you should just take. And I play h6, which basically forces g6, because if I can get rid of this pawn, then it's just checkmate. So g6 is forced, and now I slowly start winning back to g-pawn and put pressure on this bishop. Because if I get this diagonal, then I'm just threatening checkmate. And this bishop can't really... I mean, it can go to h8, but I don't think you'd want to do that. Here my opponent played probably a good move, but I'm not sure. king h8 to get out of all kinds of threats and checks, mostly on the g file. Maybe allowing rook g8 as well at some point. But maybe I can always have h7. But h7 isn't actually good because of king g7 and rook h8, and then I just lose my pawn. But maybe if it gets a tempo, then it's okay. Actually, but then rook goes up. Whatever. I just took back my pawn. I played bishop takes. Knight takes is also interesting, but I wanted to get rid of this bishop and then maybe conquer this diagonal or something. If my opponent took, I would take back with the knight, which is probably the knight is probably better on g5 than the bishop, but I wanted to get rid of this bishop. So I don't think they would take. Instead they took here, which allows a neat trick, which technically wins a pawn, but yeah, it's quite funny at least. I took this pawn, and I'm threatening something nice. Let's say rook b8, which I think is still probably the best move, because it's not technically a threat. I can take here, and if you take, then this, if you go to g8, h7 is immediately checkmate, and this is also checkmate. So you can't actually take my queen. Unfortunately, you can also just do this. I can't take because then I lose my queen, obviously. I can do this, attacking. The bishop is attacked, and I just took a queen, so you're basically forced to do this. And I win a pawn. And then we get into this endgame, knight versus bishop with a pawn up. But this is my pawn up. So it's probably drawish, but I think I have a slight advantage here. Let's actually look at that. Because my opponent's kind of disagreed. Yeah, it's just a draw. But very minor advantage. Okay. Yeah, I thought bishop b6 here, but my opponent said bishop f6. We looked at this line as well, because it's quite beautiful. And it's not that far off of what happened in the game. My opponent took here. Instead, basically now I can go into the same line but knight versus knight instead of knight versus bishop, which I think is better for me. I could also try to take with either the knight or the rook. Probably the knight. I didn't do that. But then I was afraid of rook b8 with a tempo, and like, let's say I go here and queen b6, forcing this basically, and then I mean the attack is coming. Maybe actually this loses. Maybe you hold. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. It wasn't anything concrete that I was afraid of, but yeah, that's why I took with the queen and basically went into that same endgame but slightly better, because in this variation I can take with my rook and this pawn is undefendable. So I do win a pawn here in the end. And now we have knight versus knight instead of knight versus bishop up a pawn. I thought this would be better. This didn't happen, so I'll actually, yeah, this is a lot better than what I would have gone into otherwise, because my opponent didn't actually take my queen. My opponent played queen b6, which I think is still probably playable, I guess, but you do get knight e5, which is really terrible for black, because I'm just threatening checkmate there, and this knight is the defender of checkmate, and I'm now just threatening to remove the knight. Also, there's this very interesting line where you have to play it like this. After f6, I have to take here with the knight. King h7, I just take on f8 and give checkmate on the g7, obviously. So you play king g8, then I'm forced to play knight e7, double check, because otherwise my queen hangs. Actually, technically triple check. King f7, only move, otherwise you just get checkmated in one. And then probably just this. And h7 maybe? I think this is too slow. I just have g6 or b3. And I hold, and this is just going to become a queen. Maybe here you get... No, I just make a queen. Yeah. Yeah, this must be game over. This didn't happen. Yeah, this +6. So, yeah, okay, so I guess this is game over, because f6 doesn't work. And it is, I'm fairly certain it's the only line. Unfortunately, my opponent took and just blundered this and gave up here, because it's just checkmate. Okay. So let's look at the game. I really want to look at the opening. Because I know all of this, of course. Oh yeah, why do you... Apparently not. Apparently you do play knight f3 first. Oh, knight f3 allows e6. Wait, that's totally fine, right? Wait. Or knight h4 is also... No, not knight h4, sorry. Why is it... I know that it should... Okay, h4, h6. Yeah, and I'm not seeing why it's different if you play knight f3 first. So this... I mean, you can... Maybe this is just a better version for black. Is the point. Not really clear. I think this knight is slightly misplaced. Also actually not really. I mean, it is misplaced, but this is the route that it needs to take. So why is h4 first the move? Maybe it's just because it gives a lot less options for my opponent. Here there are only 2 options, really. I genuinely don't know. Wait, actually there is this. h4 is most common. And what's after knight f6 does it say? To prevent possible knight e5. Yeah, okay. So it's just the same. It's basically just the same. I just once remembered that you should play knight or pawn, knight, pawn. Yeah, bishop d3, trade. E6 makes total sense. Bishop d2 is the modern line, because here you have some options with bishop b4 as well, yeah. And queen a5 obviously, but queen a5 I actually just... Yeah, and you still have bishop b4 options, but then... I guess that's all okay, but you're basically forced into c4 immediately, and here you can't ever be forced into c4. Which, but it's also c4 with the queen here is no big deal, while with the queen here it can be kind of annoying. Yeah, king b1 makes sense. Castle short. Engine does like it. Knight e4, good move. It's the only move that makes progress, I think. Engine likes c5 here. I can see that. c5 is the move to play to get counterplay as black, if it works. Actually, let's go into that line. So knight takes, queen takes d8, rook f takes, take here, take there. And draw? Where do we agree a draw? Okay, maybe this isn't actually a draw. B5, yeah, B5 is not the move. Rook HG1 immediately, that's also funny. Because that hangs the H-pawn. But yeah, knight takes over bishop takes. Bishop takes is +2 already, really? So knight takes, the point is knight e5, that which I mentioned. Queen, for example, and now g4, yeah. Same idea, but bishop takes g4, yeah. c5 is apparently the best move. Makes sense to me, actually. And g5, yeah. Yeah, this is really forced, what happens here. You can play c4 in between, and I'd play queen e4, probably. And then that's nothing, I think nothing different. Yeah. Apparently I should just immediately take back the pawn, but I played this, and now it's apparently still just fine. Now I do that. Okay, my opponent did play well. Wait, no, sorry. King h8, yeah. That makes sense. And queen takes b5 as the best move. That's cool. And rook b8 is just the best move because queen takes d7 is no threat. It is claimed to be the move, but it's just plus 0.1. But this is... Now I have a slight advantage apparently. Yeah, queen takes I do like. Because my mate threat actually kind of just ends regardless. Assuming, of course, that they... Even if I take with anything else, it's just over. Yeah. But queen, you do have to take, and queen b6 is of course losing because of knight e5. You can try this. d3 also makes sense to me. d3 was the move that I was considering. But... And this... King c1 obviously. And I think I'll just claim my piece. With like... one of these. I'm not going to take either rook. I think I'd play this probably to keep threats here alive, and probably f4 here. Okay, but yeah, knight takes e5 and you just get checkmated and there's nothing. Okay, that was a good game. Actually, let's look at some other options that I wanted to look at. There was something here that I wanted to look at. That I already... Yeah, knight c5 isn't good, of course, but... Still, my attack is just over. Which one? Oh yeah, this was what I wanted to look at, but that's it. Was it some sort of... Yeah. Oh yeah, it was the f6, the other f6 line. Apparently queen takes g6 is just mate. Okay, but this is good enough. Forced to go there. Queen h5, that's probably better. And h7, and then queen h5 is also fine. Oh, you can't get away. Oh, that's crazy. Queen h5, even after this. You can't get out of this discovered attack because the knight is attacking here, or you run into this discovered attack. Okay, so that's absolutely game over. But this was the line that I was looking at, which is still just plus 6.5, plus 7. And Ancient just says make another queen. Yeah, king a1, that's okay, that's fine. Yeah, game just ends here. This is just... Yeah. Just trying to survive. Okay, so... knight takes was also good enough, but apparently this is just going to be checkmate. Threatening this, and on this... Oh, knight f7 is the joke. Yep, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I put a lot of effort into calculating a long line that was definitely winning, but apparently there's an even easier win. So it's okay. Yeah, it was a fun game. I mean, next one is in a week. But there's also... Actually, no. No, all of my chess will be on break for next week. Literally everything. Yeah, literally everything. So I'll be back in 2 weeks. See you there.